Good morning, Scouters, and thank you to everyone joining us today. We're happy you're here. My name is Livingston Keithley. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Relationships for the Greater Colorado Council. And on behalf of the Council, let me welcome you for coming this morning to our first Zoom session for our Membership Summit for 2024. I appreciate all of the unit leaders, all of the district executives, district committee members, and commissioners who are online today to hear about what we want to do for membership in 2024. It's great that you're joining us. It's great that you're part of Scouting and you want to help grow our movement. The video you just watched was premiered at the National Annual Meeting 2 weeks ago. As you saw in the announcements in the news, starting February 8th, we'll be going by the name Scouting America. And we wanted to give you just a little taste of what that's going to look like in terms of media, videos, and images that we're going to roll into over the next year. But that won't be our focus today. We'll talk in another session about some of the media, some of the assets you will have to be able to create your fall roundup. Today, our focus is going to be on retention and on our program qualities for our Cub Scout packs, our Scout troops, as well as our older youth programs. One of the things to come out of the National Annual Meeting was a discussion talking about how we need to improve our retention at all of our levels. We want to keep our youth in Scouting, keep them moving from one program to the next and into the older youth programs. We have 3 great speakers today to talk about that, who have lived this experience just like all of you. They're going to be passing along tips and tricks, best practices and ideas that you can use in your unit and in your district to improve your retention of Scouts. We'll start off talking about Cub Scouts, and John Yarborough from Pack 548 is going to talk to us about some of the things that he has done in his pack to help retain youth, to keep them there, and to have them really enjoy the program. Because at the end of the day, as long as you have a fun program going on, they're going to stay in Scouting. We've seen direct metrics that say the more fun they have in Scouting, the longer they stay in Scouting, and the family makes the decision to stay in Scouting rather than to go do some other activity. After that, we'll hear from Dave Weaver with Pack 34 and Troop 62 in my wonderful Frontier District. He'll be talking about crossover and how we get our Webelos and our Arrow of Light Scouts to cross over and join troops. Finally, we'll hear from Patty Nortman with Troop 444, as well as Crew and Ship 444 to talk about the older youth programs. The older youth programs are underutilized, and we can really see a membership bump as well as a retention bump. We'll talk more about that a little bit later this morning. But for now, let's kick it off with a video from John Yarborough talking about things you can do in Cub Scouts to improve the program and keep your Cubs in Scouting. Take it away, John.
Hi, my name is John Yarborough, and I'm the Cub Master of Pack 548, and I've been the Cub Master for a little over 3 years. And I took over during COVID in 2020, and that was a hard time for all packs and all troops. And as I took over, I pulled one of my den leaders aside, and I asked him, I'm like, I don't want this pack to survive COVID. I want it to thrive. How do we get this pack to thrive during COVID? And as we sat back and started thinking, started brainstorming, it came to our attention. What does Scouting mean? When you hear the word Scouting, what do you envision? So I want everybody to think about it. What do you envision when you hear the word Scouting? What we envision, when you talk to a lot of people, they envision Scouting means you get a group of kids, they're outdoors, they're learning both leadership and life skills, they're working on team building, and they're developing lifelong memories and lifelong friends. And that was it. That got us. That's the vision of Pack 548, living the Scouting spirit. And that we've built an entire program with that vision. And that has allowed us to grow from a pack of about 27 when I took over to over 70 scouts this last year. And that's been the greatest success, is that that's what these kids want to do. They want to be outdoors and they want to have fun. And so we've built an extensive program over the last 3 years. And what we do is in year one, we started with our camping. We decided we're going camping no matter what. And so we started camping in April. And so as a pack, we camp April, May, June, July, August. We take September off for popcorn, October, November. We save the April and November campouts for the older scouts. And then we allow pack camping or family camping during May through October. And what we see is parents love that. Why do parents love it? Having that many campouts allows every single scout to participate in at least one camping activity a year. If you only camp once, that limits people's ability to actually go camping because people have lives, they have vacations, and it's just hard to plan to go one camp out a year. And that's why we do all the camping as many times as we can. The other benefit is it gets the kids excited. You'll be surprised every time I bring up the fact, hey, we're going camping next month. The kids become ecstatic. They love camping. And so that first year as a Cub Master, we built our camping program. And with that, we do several things. We focus on the pack, but we also focus on the Webelos and AOLs. It is our goal to really encourage those scouts to cross over to a troop. And the way we do that is that we have those Webelos and AOLs camp with a troop, our sister troop at our charter organization, about 4 times before they cross over. And what that does is that allows those Cub Scouts to actually start forming friendships within the troop. So when they do cross over, they're encouraged to cross over because they now have friends at the troop level. And when they do, it's not this scary enigma of, oh my, I don't know what's going on. I don't know these people. This is very scary. It's, hey, I know Scout A and Scout B. I'm cool. We're going to have fun. And that's one of the biggest things we've known is camping with that troop really helps get those AOLs inspired to cross over. Our second year, what we did was we developed an aquatics program. And what we were able to do is we actually had some scout leaders that took dedicated time, went to BSA and got aquatics trained. And that has been huge. That has allowed us to build an aquatics program that now allows us during the summertime to do beach days, to get these kids swimming, because every kid loves swimming, but we want to do it safely and do it the scouting way. And so for year 2, we basically sat back and developed that aquatics program because we had the camping organized, it was ready to go, we had it structured. Now we worked on the aquatics program. And in between those times, we've also done fishing. And what we've noticed is a lot of parents don't know how to fish. Neither do scouts. And we were kind of, from somebody who grew up in Texas on the Texas lakes, bass fishing every summer and every fall, I was kind of shocked at how many people actually don't go fishing, but want to go fishing, but they don't know how to. And so we offer the fishing program to teach both the adults and the scouts how to go fishing. We go ice fishing in the winter, January and February. We go fishing up at Evergreen. And then starting in April, we try to go fishing once a month at Bear Creek. And that is just, it gets these young kids excited. There's nothing better than watching a kid, a little lion, reel in their first fish, all excited. And the moment they get it to land, you just see the swarm of all other scouts basically swarm that kid. I want to see. It gets that excitement and gets the kids excited about scouting. And that's what we did, is that we looked at the spirit of scouting and developed our program. And that's what I encourage everyone in this room to do, is figure out, are you offering the true scouting experience, the lifelong memories, the lifelong friends, and how hard is it really to build those kind of programs? But in order to do that, you've got to have the calendar planned out. And that is one big thing that we do in the pack, in our pack, is we do a yearly planning in July, in which we plan the entire year of all activities. We do that for 2 reasons. One, parents like structure. They like to know when the activities are so they can plan ahead and they can plan around those activities. Second, getting campsites are getting a lot harder these days. And so in order to do that, you have to know, okay, these are the dates we're going to go camping. So therefore, we know when we have to get those campsites reserved. And that helps parents as well because they can plan their vacation. So they can pick which one of their favorite campsites that we're going to go on, and they can plan their vacations around it. And so that communication really helps strengthen parents' involvement, wanting to participate in our outdoor activities. So besides our outdoor program, which I think has been a huge success and has been a really big part on why we've been successful, the other thing we do is that we really focus on getting these scouts prepped for to cross over. One thing we love to do is getting the AOLs and the Webelos. We start treating them like a troop. Even at the Webelo level, we start exposing them to the way troops operate, and we try to operate them at a troop level. And so we give them more responsibilities. We give them more leadership roles. One thing we really enjoy doing is having our Webelos run campouts. And what I mean by run campouts is that they'll cook for the parents and all the other scouts, and they will help lead all the activities that we do. That gives them some ownership, and it separates them. It shows them as the leader of the pack. And so all the younger scouts actually look up to them. And then the younger scouts kind of become inspired to be like them. And you can see that happen from lion all the way up to bears. You can start seeing the way that they start interacting with the older scouts, and that they start trying to mimic that kind of behavior. And so that's one thing I think we've been successful in helping crossover. We have a very high crossover rate. For the past couple of years, we've crossed over 90% of our Webelos cross over to a troop. We now have girls in our program. And so what I've done as a Cub Master, and it is awfully hard. No, it's not hard. It's just, it takes a while, is that you've got to build a relationship with troops. Luckily, we've got a sister troop at our church, but for our Girl Scouts, I have to go out and actually, start working with the female troops. And that is important because the moment we've got several Webelo girls now, I'm starting to introduce them to the troop as well. So that is one of the biggest, I think the parents enjoy the most, or thank us the most, is getting their kids inspired to go onto the troop level by getting them exposed to the troops. And so I would say, in order to build a successful Cub Scout program, in order to retain retention and to get these scouts to cross over, is you truly have to run your pack with the spirit of scouting. Get these kids outdoors, get them learning life skills, get them bonding with their fellow scouts, allowing them to build those lifelong memories and those lifelong friendships. And you will be surprised with how quickly your program will grow by word of mouth. And you will be surprised with how many scouts will cross over to troop. And that is why I do this as a Cub Master and work as hard as I do, is because we do it for the kids. And so I encourage you to think of scouting and to live through the principles of scouting with your pack, and you will see great, huge improvements. So thank you for listening. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I think those are great words that we hear about how to build and enhance your Cub Scout pack, make it a more effective and really a more fun unit, right? If any of you came to our membership summit last year and you heard Anthony from the national office come and talk about the new Cub Scout rollout plan, there was one thing I remember him saying that really stuck with me. He told a story about the best way to recruit and the best way to retain your families in your units, whether it's at Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, or in the older youth programs. And that was to include the entire family, right? He said, make sure that your families do not just think of scouting as a drop-off activity. Make it a family activity. Involve the moms, involve the dads. Make the scout meetings just as much about the dads and the moms seeing their friends as it is for the youth, right? If I'm going to my son's troop meeting because I want to hang out with some of the other dads for an hour on a Tuesday night because I have a lot of fun with them, then I'm naturally going to keep bringing my son to that troop meeting, right? Whether or not he wants to come. And mind you, I love my son, but he's in that 16-year-old range and he's too cool right now. And he's starting to get back into scouting, but dad wants to go to the troop meeting. So get in the car. Let's go to Scouts. Before we go to our next speaker, I want to point out down at the bottom, you have a button for a Q&A section. If you have questions, please put a question in the Q&A and we'll try to answer it at the end of our presentations today. We want to hear from you. We want to give you the information you want to help make your unit or your district effective in retaining youth. So be sure to add your questions. One last point in terms of retention and experience. I think John talked about it very, very well about really making sure there's fun in what's going on. I want to show everybody a slide really quick that we have. This is from a survey that National did about 3 years ago now. They surveyed families that left scouting and they asked them, why did you leave scouting? Why did you leave scouting? And here are the results. These were the reasons and the percentages of why people said they were leaving scouting. 35% of the people who left Cub Scouting said they left because their kids crossed over. Fantastic. We want to see that number increase. But then you look at the next categories there, and what you see is that they weren't having fun. They weren't getting effective communication from their unit leaders. If you talk with these parents and you tell them what's going on and you involve scouting and scouting activities in their family calendar, that is the absolute best way to keep that family participating in scouting, right? John talked about in his presentation about making sure you talk about when your unit campouts are going to be so that the families can get that into their family calendar because they have other vacations and other things they're doing. I'll take that one step further. You want to give your camping schedule to those families so that your campout can become their family vacation. There are a lot of families that if we tell them this is your opportunity to hang out with your son and your daughter, they'll love that just as much. And you're going to national parks, you're having a good time, and you're seeing what's going on. It can be just as much a family vacation as anything else. My wife and my daughter get to take our family vacation this summer down at a place in New Mexico called Philmont. So they'll have a good time. With that, let me turn it over to one of my fellow dads in Troop 62. Have him talk a little bit about crossover. John touched on it a little bit, but Dave is an expert. Dave is the former Cub Master from Pack 34 in Frontier District. Over the past 2 to 3 years, he's successfully crossed almost 30 youth over into Scouts BSA, both a boys troop and a girls troop. So nobody I could think of better to talk about how to do an effective crossover and how to prepare your Webelos and Arrow of Light than Dave. So with that, Dave, I'll hand it over to you and let you tell us the best way of doing that.
Thank you, Livingston. Well, John hit on it earlier. It's really about building relationships between the Cub Scout packs and the troops. A troop can't just call the Cub Scout pack in middle of February and say, hey, how many scouts are you going to be crossing over to the troop? You need to be working on it year round and building that relationship. The first obvious thing is the den chief. Everybody talks about den chiefs. Having a troop age scout work directly with the dens, helping them out, helping their meetings, and basically being an assistant during those. Look at your troop. Do you have a scout in the troop who has a younger sibling in a Cub Scout pack? They're probably getting dragged along to the pack activities anyway. They might as well have a role in it. Or is there a scout in the troop that loves to work with younger scouts and teach skills? That's a ideal candidate for being a den chief. And like John hit on earlier, those younger scouts are going to look up to those older scouts and want to be like them. They're going to want to emulate them later. Reach out to the Cub Scout packs and say, hey, do you need help at your Pinewood Derby? We've got troop age scouts who will help at your car check-in, or they'll help pit crew run the cars back from the finish line and get them sorted and pull up the cars for the next race. Help at Blue and Gold, or help run stations at a meeting or an activity. The Cubs will look up to these scouts and want to be just like them. And it'll also give the troop age scouts an opportunity to just talk with the Cub Scouts and talk about the activities that they do. It's like, oh, hey, I just went on this camp out and we did this, an incredible thing. Or, oh, I see you have the patch for the Cub summer camp. We go to the same place, but instead of just doing 3 nights, we do 6 nights and we do all these other activities. And this summer, I'm looking forward to horsemanship and archery merit badge and things like that. Get those troop age scouts doing those activities with the packs and talking about those activities to get them excited about them. Next up, well, how do you incentivize the troop age scouts to do this? Service hours. Every rank from tenderfoot through life rank has some sort of service hour requirement, as well as a couple of the other awards and merit badges. So use those service hours to entice your troop age scouts to help out with the Cub Scout packs. Also, as those troop age scouts are going to those Cub activities, somebody's probably driving them. Make sure that those adults that are driving them are not just disappearing into the background and blending into the wall. Get them talking with the adults and the parents in the Cub Scout pack as well. Have those parents talk about the incredible activities that they did. Have them talk about, oh yeah, I went on the last camp out, and right after breakfast, it was incredible. The older scouts put together the dish line, and they got all the younger scouts lined up, and all of the youth just magically did the dishes. I was like, just have them talk about those incredible things and how those life skills are being instilled in their youth. Talk about, oh yeah, at the last camp out, it was the first time this scout was the senior patrol leader, the scout in charge of the outing, and they really stepped up. And even though they were only 14 years old, they did this and they did that. And it was really awesome. So have those adults talk up those things to the parents so that the parents start to recognize it's like, oh yeah, these are the things that we'll get out of the troop level. Also have those parents talk with the Cub Scout leaders and get in their mindset, realize, oh yeah, they're probably going on their 4th, maybe even their 5th year of planning weekly activities and weekly meetings, and talk to them about how, oh yeah, the troop is youth led. The youth are the ones who do these things. We just make sure that they stay within their the rails and everything is safe. And oh yeah, the last meeting they wanted to do this, so the quartermaster went out and got these supplies, and this scout did this, and we just sat back and it happened. Or, oh, you should see the camp chair that our scoutmaster brings to the campouts, and he just reclines back and takes a 2-hour nap Saturday afternoon. So talk to those Cub Scout leaders, make sure that they know that at the troop level, it's not a whole another round of what they've just gone through, but it's completely different. And we're encouraging the youth to be to run a great youth-led troop. John hit on earlier, but of course, we're inviting the Arrow of Light Scouts to our activities. Don't wait until February and the only one is Klondike. Start inviting them in the fall. Klondikes are fun, but if you can get it on their calendars in the fall and say, hey, we've got these 3 campouts here and this other campout here and this activity here, the families can try to figure out what fits in their calendar, so you have a better likelihood that the scout is actually going to be able to make those activities. And John hit on earlier, they're encouraging up to 4 campouts for their Cub Scouts before they cross over. That's incredible. So get on their calendars in the fall and try to get them to the fall campouts. Attending a campout is one of the requirements for Arrow of Light still. Also, invite them to a troop meeting. That's another one of those requirements for Arrow of Light. Make sure that you're planning those meetings. Don't wait until February where you get a call from a pack saying, hey, it's 5 days until crossover and we need to meet this requirement. And you look at your calendar and say, okay, we've got a troop meeting, but it's a border, it's a court of honor. You know, try to schedule those meetings in the fall and then schedule special activities during them. Fire making, camp cooking demos, things like that, real active, fun things that take scouting to another level that they haven't been doing as Cub Scouts and will really grab their attention. Also ask the Arrow of Light den leader if they need help covering any of the requirements. Maybe the den leader doesn't know a lot about knots or things like that. And your troop age scouts could really knock that out in a great meeting. Also, don't just focus on the Arrow of Light. Be talking to those 4th grade Webelos. There's a couple of ventures that we can help out with them. They need to go on a 2-mile walk for the Webelos walkabout. Maybe the troop age scouts can lead the 4th grade Webelos on a 2-mile walk and help them figure out, you know, those first aid requirements and the 6 essentials and things like that. To start introducing those troop age scouts to those 4th grade Webelos. Also the new Bobcat requirements for age-specific Bobcat requirements. You could have the troop age scouts teach those for the 4th grade Webelos. And then another idea is to lead stations for the first year of Webelos, the 4th grade Webelos. You know, maybe have a first aid night and your troop age scouts are running the stations for that. Finally, when you do have the Cub Scout packs come to your meetings, make sure that it's a welcoming experience. You know, do you need a welcoming committee? You know, maybe somebody designated to stand in the parking lot, make sure people know which door to come into and where to go to get to your meeting. Somebody with a smiling face, welcoming them to the meeting. Things like that. At the same time, watch out for your TLAs. TLAs are 3-letter acronyms. A lot of these Cub Scout parents, they're not familiar with the program. They don't know what an SPL is. They don't know what a PLC is. Things like that, or the ASM. So make sure you say, okay, you know, this guy is the senior patrol leader. They're the ones in charge of the meeting. You know, these are the patrol leaders, things like that. So watch out for your acronyms and make sure that you're welcoming them in nicely. And then finally, make sure we've kind of hit on a lot of the requirement type things. Just host fun activities. Just a week or two ago, a good friend of mine with Troop 373 they have an annual event where they host a rocket launch. Get a bunch of Estes model rockets, and they have a Cub Scout pack come and they just do a couple hours of fun launching things like that. So, you know, think out of the box, think what fun things we do to get the outing back in scouting. So Livingston, that wraps it up for my ideas.
Fantastic, Dave. I appreciate it. Thank you for thoughts on crossover, thoughts on how to get our youth from the Cub Scout packs over to the Scout troops. I can't tell you the number of times I've been to crossover ceremonies or I've been to pack meetings talking with 5th grade parents, and they say, I had no idea this went beyond 5th grade. When Cub Scout parents come in, especially today, scouting is not as well known as it used to be in the past. And so they're not familiar with our program and they're not familiar with our different levels. So when you recruit them in at the Cub Scout level, they think this is just for elementary school. This is just kindergarten to 5th grade. And then when they get to January of 5th grade and suddenly somebody starts talking about, hey, there's this whole other universe called Scout troops, they have no idea what you're talking about. So you want to put that conversation in earlier. You want to find ways for your Cub Scout packs and your scout troops to do things together. If only we had some opportunity that we were putting together at the council level where we can engender that kind of a relationship between a Cub Scout pack and scout troops within our council. But wait, have I talked about the Colorado Jamboree coming up at the end of September? If you have not seen this website yet, now is your opportunity to write this down. If you go to coloradojamboree.com, you will learn about the multi-council jamboree that the Greater Colorado Council is going to be hosting at the end of September down at McNeil Scout Ranch at Peaceful Valley. We would love to have you come down. There are amazing events being planned. If you click on this events tab on the left side, fun things to do. You see all of the things that are planned for Cub Scout packs and Cub Scouts to come down. And then you see all kinds of amazing things for Scouts and older youth to be able to do. But one of the main focus points of this is to let the Cubs see what the Scouts do and to give Scouts that opportunity to volunteer and show off scouting skills. So make sure, if you haven't looked at it yet, double check that website, coloradojamboree.com. We would love to have you come on down and see what's going on. Let's transition now from talking about troop activities, and how to cross Cubs into troops, and talk about those older youth. We always hear, how do I keep my youth in my troop when they get hit with the fumes, the gas fumes, the perfumes, all of the fumes, right? And my kids are a perfect example. I've got a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and the fumes are hitting them both pretty hard right now. We're not able to make the weekly troop meetings anymore. One of the sessions I went to at the national meeting was a session talking exactly about how to keep your older youth in the program. They've done surveys of families. Here's something I didn't know. If you find a way for your older youth to join one of our older youth programs, Venturing, Exploring, or Sea Scouts, on average, that youth stays in scouting 16 months longer than if you try to hold them back and hold them within the troop. Yes, we want to get our kids to Eagle. Yes, we want to have them progress on that path. But if we get them into the things that the older kids do, they stay in scouting longer, they learn those leadership activities and leadership qualities, and they come out a better formed youth for it. Our last presenter today is Patty Nortman. If you've been in the council for any length of time, you know Patty from her great service, both at the troop level as well as with our older youth programs. She's a perfect person to talk about how to keep our older scouts in the program and have a good time with it. I'll turn it over to Patty now. Go ahead.
Hi, Patty. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you just give us a brief explanation of your experience in scouting?
Sure. I started volunteering with scouting just about 20 years ago when my older son was a Tiger. I've volunteered now in 3 different councils, but I've been here in Greater Colorado Council for 17 years now. So that's definitely the most volunteer time I've had is here in Denver. And I have served in a bunch of different roles, from den leader, Cub Master, committee chair, Scoutmaster, venture advisor. I have NYLT Scoutmaster under my belt, Wood Badge Scoutmaster. So, and OA. I served on OA staff for various things too. So I have a pretty diverse background, I feel, for a volunteer.
Awesome. Thank you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how you've kept your scouts engaged and interested in the troops, and then move over to kind of the older youth programs, Venturing and Ships. So
Sure.
At a troop level, what elements of your troop programs kept your scouts the most interested and engaged in sticking around in the troop and having fun?
Sure. So I have 2 different experiences to draw on. I have 2 children. They're almost 9 years apart, and they were in different troops, both here in the Denver area. And they had very different programs, but I think that's key right there is what was the program, because program is what drives the kids' interest in staying involved in scouting. I know for my older son, he very much enjoyed the interactions with the incoming scouts, and even well past his Eagle and 14 and 15-year-old self, he routinely would sign up for the younger scout campouts because that's where he really enjoyed giving back to his troop, was through those interactions with the younger kids. Whereas some kids can be sometimes put off by the younger set, but that wasn't the case for my older son at all. So he was very keen to keep focused on that new crop of kids that would come in every year. And then, of course, he enjoyed the other program offered for his troop, the campouts and the summer camp. He loved going to Camp Chris Dobbins and eventually became a staff member and served on staff for about 8 years. And really, I think probably more than anything, it was summer camp that kept him going.
Awesome. Awesome. Did any of your scouts, did they start at the cub level, or did they start at the troop level with scouting?
In my own family or
Yeah.
in the units? Yes, both of my boys started as Tigers and
Okay.
went all the way through.
Very
So both of my boys are Eagle Scouts, and my older son left his troop at 18, and my younger scout opted to leave at 14, right after he'd gotten his Eagle. He got his Eagle right before his 14th birthday, and then that was pretty much when he moved on to other things within the Boy Scouts of America.
awesome. Thank you. So within the troop, at what age would you say scouts become the older youth section? Like what age, or what kind of happens that makes them considered older youth?
I think that varies widely on the individual because kids are going to develop at a different rate. Their interests are going to develop differently. You could have an 18-year-old scout be less mature than a 14-year-old scout easily. And I think when we talk about what makes an older youth, I think it's very personalized. And I think there's also almost a natural division between middle school and high school. So if you have a scout that's come in from Cub Scouts in the 5th grade, and then you get 3 years of middle school, especially if you have a really motivated scout, they may be pretty far into their progression of rank, if that's something they've chosen to do, by the end of 8th grade. And some scouts are happy to stay at first class for a long time and enjoy all the activities and don't really focus on the rank. So I think another thing that I would always even advise parents is when looking at units, you really have to have a good understanding of what your own child is looking for. And then as a leader, I think it's very important for us to understand what our scouts are looking for, because if we're pushing program that is rank heavy and you have a scout that really just wants adventure, that's not going to be the right program for them.
Yeah.
And I would always rather see a scout find a unit that's a better fit than quit altogether.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Yeah. When your boys were in the troop and you were more involved at that level, did a lot of the scouts get involved with Order of the Arrow and NYLT? Did those sort of other programs help them stay interested in the troop? Did that have any sort of impact?
So both of my boys came from different troops, but both troops had a very high participation rate in the Order of the Arrow specifically, especially my older son's troop. And then both of my boys attended NYLT as participants, but then my younger son staffed it for several years. He was on staff for 4 years, and he ended his NYLT as an SPL, which is what he had wanted.
Awesome.
But they also really benefited from Order of the Arrow. And I think offering programs like that opportunity is really important. I know that one thing with my older son, like I mentioned, he really liked to work with the younger kids, and that kept him maintained and interested. But he also really took to heart the principle in the Order of the Arrow that our job once in the order is to give back to our units and to continue to serve not only at the Order of the Arrow, but in our home units. So there would sometimes be times he would miss Order of the Arrow activities because he opted to serve with his troop instead. So in that regard, the Order of the Arrow and his participation in it really solidified his desire to maintain his activity level in the troop
Awesome.
rather than competing. I know
Yeah.
I've heard scoutmasters sometimes complain they don't want their kids to get involved in these other things because it pulls away their attention
Hmm.
from the primary troop. But I guess I would kind of say too bad. We need to figure out what the kids need and serve those needs, not necessarily what is best for the adults in a unit. Because I understand having the older youth around is so much easier,
Hmm.
but it's not our journey, it's theirs.
Yeah. That was awesome. Thank you. That was well said. So moving into the older youth program, the venturing, the ship, how many or did any of the scouts that were involved in the troop, did they continue on in the crew or the ship? How did that kind of look?
So my older son never got involved in a ship or crew. So, and there really wasn't a ship or crew affiliated with his troop that
Okay.
was sort of a natural progression.
Hmm.
And where my younger son is, there we have a whole family of units. We have Cubs, we have troop, we have both Scouts BSA, both a girl and a boy troop. And then we have a ship and a crew. So there is a path for our kids in the troop to move into those older youth programs if they choose.
Yeah.
One thing I find really interesting with our ship and crew is that we didn't only pull from our troop. We pulled from a lot of different troops and we had kids from all over. I know myself, it was a 40-minute drive to get
Wow.
down to our meetings, but it was the right program for my son. And that's why we made the drive. It had the right elements for what he was looking for. And his opportunity to move out of the troop and into ship and crew at 14 is what kept him in scouting.
Amazing. Okay,
Mhm.
so you said that that was the right fit for him, and I guess how did how was he able to kind of take ownership and make that experience his own, and how did that look for him in the crew or in the ship?
Sure. So there were a lot of things that happened all at once that I think supported his ability to transition into the older youth at the time he did. He had just gotten his Eagle. He had made the decision after he had earned his Eagle to pursue the Distinguished Conservation Service Award, which was going to be a long-term commitment, and he knew that going into it. So he definitely wanted to stay involved in scouting to be able to pursue that award.
Okay.
But the nice thing with the ship and the crew is he was able to join, he went actually to, let me think about this, it was right after COVID, he was able, or not after COVID, but it was during the pandemic, he went to Powderhorn
Okay.
and experienced what ships and crews could offer.
Cool.
And he signed up that weekend, actually. He was still only registered in the troop at the point that he went to Powderhorn, and he loved learning about all the possibilities of the older youth program. And before we left camp that weekend, he was registered with the crew.
Amazing. That's very exciting. It must have been like all about it to sign up on the spot.
Yes,
Um,
it's too bad that the Powderhorn program is going away because I think it really does help our troop kids learn what's out there and what's available.
Totally. Then I guess one of my last questions is, how did in the paired troop and cruise ship, those three pairs, how did you all use the differences to your advantage, or how did that look?
So I'm thinking of one youth in particular that had a lot going on in his life
Okay.
outside of scouting. And I
Mhm.
think this is going to end up being kind of a squirrely answer. When I think of this scout in particular, he was becoming overwhelmed with the schedule that he had. He was an athlete. He was
Okay.
a scholar. He was doing a lot of extra academics
Mhm.
on the side. He really wanted to make Eagle, but the concept of a weekly meeting in a troop was becoming unsustainable for him. One of the things about our ship and crew that we were intentional about is our meetings, both ship and crew meet the same night, and we only meet 2 times a month. So for kids that are, especially in that older set, but also very committed in other ways to other activities, it allows them the opportunity to pursue scouting without as much of a time crunch. And for this scout that I'm thinking of in particular, he was able to complete his Eagle through the crew. I don't know that all families and even scoutmasters for that matter realize that once a scout has made first class in a troop, they can transition into a ship or crew and still become an Eagle Scout as long as they fulfilled those earlier ranks. So for that scout, freeing up his schedule a little bit, removing some of those weekly commitments allowed him to pursue his Eagle and kept him involved other than what might have been had he not had that opportunity. Also, like with my son, he's pretty driven, and he knew he wanted to pursue his summit rank in venturing,
Mhm.
but he really loved the opportunities that our ship and crew offered him with respect to ship, and he ended up pursuing quartermaster as well, which I don't think he necessarily started out thinking he was going to do that, but he had the opportunity to go to sea base, and
Oh,
then
awesome.
he also had the opportunity to attend SEAL and then staff SEAL. And unfortunately, SEAL is another one of the programs from the older youth that has been, pushed to the wayside,
Mhm.
which I feel strongly about. I'm not going to get on a soapbox about the older youth programming and some of the changes that are being made, because I know for 100% certainty, if there hadn't been an older youth opportunity for my son, he would have been done at 14. He would have made
Yeah.
Eagle and been done. And by staying in the program through beyond that, he is an OA Vigil member. He became an NYLT SPL. Like I said, he earned his summit, he earned his quartermaster, he earned his Distinguished Conservation Service Award. And none of that would have been possible had it not been for the older youth program that was so appealing to him. And I should mention, you asked how did he make it his own? He immediately ran for crew president. And one thing that's really, I think, amazing with the older youth program is they really are on their own in the
Yeah.
terms of you make your schedule. If you don't plan well and we show up and you haven't planned or you forgot the plan, then we'll just be sitting there. There's no adults that are going to swoop in and bring a filler because the scouts failed to plan. So
Yeah.
he was very determined to fill the calendar, to fill the 2 meetings a month with activities, especially right after COVID, when all the kids just desperately needed interaction and fun. And so his first year as crew president, we did outings nearly every other meeting, or not every other meeting, but every other week at our meetings. We would go play disc golf, or they went and played
Awesome.
bowling, or they would go out and run around and play capture the flag. It was very, very activities focused, and
Mhm.
we didn't do rank at all that year. And it was really interesting to me because I had a lot of parents. I was the crew advisor, and I had a lot of parents complain about the lack of rank and why aren't we doing this, that, and the other so that they can be advancing in their rank. And I had to explain to the parents, I'm like, that's not what the kids want.
Yeah, totally.
They made this plan as a group because this is what they need for this point in their lives. And if we have kids that want to pursue the rank, I'm happy to do that. It's just not going to be a focus during a meeting. That's what this group of leadership planned for the year.
Yeah. It's what they
So
wanted, and it's what kept them there and wanting to come back every week. So that's
exactly.
awesome. Yeah.
Exactly. And to this day, he's still a lot of the kids, when people ask me what our ship or crew focus is, I always tell them it's leadership. A lot of our kids in our ship and crew staff NYLT, they're staffing the Order of the Arrow events. They are proven leaders. We've had council level bosun and VOA president. We are one of the national officers right now is from our crew.
Okay.
and ship. And so our kids really, they take that to heart. They take the opportunities to own their experience, and it really, it's helped them thrive in the program.
That's amazing. Well, I think we're about out of time, but thank you so much, Patty. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts and what made the Troop and older youth programs work for your kids. And just thank you for your time. And
Sure.
any last words of advice?
My biggest advice truly is to understand what the kids are searching for. And there's no way to really get at that until you take the time to invest in spending time with the kids, understand their motivation, understand where they're at in their current journey, and really find the path that best suits where they want to end up. Because if we meet their interests, they're not going to have a reason to leave.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so
Sure.
much for your time.
Happy to help.
Thank you so much, Patty. Definitely words of wisdom of how to operate a troop, how to operate a crew and a ship to keep your youth engaged and to have a lot of fun with them. I think back to troops I've been involved with, either as a youth myself or as more of a district level volunteer helping to support that troop. And there's always a couple of youth in every unit, right, that is not there for the rank advancement. Yes, you have those who are trying to get to Eagle as quickly as possible, and they're moving through the ranks as fast as lightning. But you have others who are just kind of taking their time. They're enjoying the sweetness that scouting provides, the camping, the camaraderie, the friendship. And those are the types of things we bring to our scouts. It's a fantastic opportunity for them. And we want to make sure that they know that. We want to make sure they know this is where you can develop as a person. This is where you can meet friends and you can do things that all of you enjoy. And you're going to have a good time doing it. One of the unique things we like to promote when we're doing the recruiting of new families is to tell them scouting is not a drop-off activity, but scouting is also something you can do alongside your other activities. You heard Patty talk about the youth she had in her troop, who once they got to high school, that particular youth got involved in student government, got involved in sports, got involved in other extracurriculars. We promote that. We want to see them develop and grow and be those leaders outside of scouting just as much as they are inside scouting. The unique aspect is we always welcome them back, and we want them to come back and help lead the younger scouts behind them and show them the way, show them not just how to become an Eagle, but how to become a leader and how to have a good time doing it. So now's the time. We've had our presenters talk from Cub Scouts all the way up to our older youth programs, venturing, Sea Scouting, exploring. We're happy to answer some of your questions. Again, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button you can click to ask any questions you might have. We're happy to give you the information we can. Now we'll answer it live. We have about 3-4 minutes left here. We're happy to answer whatever questions. If you haven't checked out the Q&A yet, there's already been some questions back and forth. Check that out, and it may answer some of the questions you had here on the presentation. But I think we're set up for a great year of scouting. We want to see your units really benefit and really grow and keep your scouts in. Couple last numbers I will give you. First, in terms of crossover this year in our council, based on the metrics, we're able to see that we crossed over almost half of the Arrow of Light Scouts to a scout troop this spring. Congratulations to all the Cub Scout packs and scout troops that helped made that possible. It's great to keep those youth in the program. And for the half that did not cross over, I want to ask you, you know who those people are. Please give them a call. Pick up the phone, send them an email, send them a text message and say, we'd love for you to come and check out the troop and see all the fun you're missing. We want you to stay in scouting, not just because we want to pad our membership numbers, but because we think your family will really enjoy the experience of coming with us on the troop campouts and doing those types of activities. So number one, see if you can reach out to those folks. I want to promote our next membership seminar. It is coming up next week. It's going to be on May 30th, which is next Thursday. I appreciate all of you joining us for your lunch hour today on a Wednesday. It's a beautiful day out, so thank you for staying with us here. Our next membership summit is going to be next Thursday evening. We decided to do an evening one just so we can grab other people, right? And have you join us as well and tell all your friends. But we're going to be doing our second one next Thursday, May 30th at 6:30 p.m. You can sign up on the council website, scoutingcolorado.org. And our focus next Thursday is going to be talking about the value proposition of scouting. How do you explain to both prospective families and your current families how scouting benefits them, why they should join scouting? There's so many opportunities for youth nowadays. It's hard for our message to get through all of those other people competing for a family's interest. But we want to give you some ideas and some talking points to help explain what we're able to give. So we'll be talking about issues on mental health and social engagement for scouts. That's a very big issue, both for families, parents, as well as schools. We're also going to be talking about more of a partnership that our council is building with our educational districts, our school districts. How are you going to see scouting in education? And how can we help enhance what they're learning in school? And the last thing is talking about family impact. Again, scouting is not just fun for the kids. It's fun for the parents too. You get to go on the campouts. Those families get to go on the campouts and make all kinds of new friends. So that's what we're going to talk about next Thursday. I hope you're able to join us. If anyone has any last questions, we're happy to talk with you. Otherwise, if you have any questions or you think of something you forgot to ask, please, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Livingston Keithley, the Vice President of Membership for our council. My contact information is there on the screen. You can also reach out to Emily Strawn, who's our membership director. She's happy to answer any questions you might have. Her phone number and her email are up there as well. Thank you so much for joining us today during your lunch hour. Thank you for what you do in scouting, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Everyone, take care.